The battlefield was hell. A scarred, desolate landscape, trenches snaked through mud, littered with debris and the stench of death. Rain never stopped, turning the ground into a quagmire. Rats feasted on the dead. Private Thomas Whitaker huddled in the trench, cold and weary. Fear gnawed at his insides. They had been told this would be the big push, the one to end the stalemate. Thomas didn't believe it. He gripped his rifle, his only solace. A young man from Liverpool, he never imagined this life. He missed his mum's cooking, the bustling city streets, the normalcy of life before the war. Now, surrounded by the deafening roar of artillery, he clung to the hope of survival. Every blast of the German guns shook him to his core. This was the Somme. James Holloway, his best mate, huddled beside him. They had enlisted together, full of youthful bravado. Now only fear and a grim determination remained. "This is it, Tommy," James whispered, his voice tight with apprehension. "This is the big one." They shared a cigarette, a small comfort in the face of oblivion. Thomas had seen the fear in James's eyes, mirrored in his own. But their bond, forged in the trenches, ran deeper than fear. They were brothers in arms, facing their mortality together. "We'll be all right, James," Thomas lied, forcing a smile. They both knew it was a lie, but it offered a sliver of hope in the abyss of despair. At dawn, the whistles blew. The order pierced the air. "Over the top, lads!" Thomas and James scrambled out of the trench, joining the waves of soldiers charging into no man's land. Machine guns roared, unleashing a storm of bullets. Men fell around Thomas, cut down like wheat. The air was thick with the coppery tang of blood and the stench of cordite. He saw James fall, a crimson stain blooming on his chest. "James!" he screamed, his voice lost in the cacophony of battle. He couldn't reach him, couldn't help him. Shells exploded all around him. The world became a blur of noise, fire and death. Thomas, numb with horror, kept running, driven by instinct and a desperate will to survive. The war ended, but the memories lingered. Thomas returned home, haunted by the horrors he had witnessed. The guilt of survival weighed heavily on his soul. He could never escape the memory of James's lifeless eyes staring up at the indifferent sky. The war had stolen his friend, his innocence and his faith in humanity. The world called them heroes, but Thomas felt only emptiness. What was it all for? The endless rows of graves, the shattered lives, the futility of it all. He carried the scars, both visible and invisible, a constant reminder of the true cost of war. And as he looked at the world, he prayed that humanity would learn from its past. The shadows of the trenches, he knew, would forever darken his soul.